I'm not surprised at all. If you look at our presence on the Eurobond market since 2007, beyond the 2007, every time we go to the market, if you look at the prospectus, you come to understand that we borrowed to defray, already existing debt, for which just some small amount comes into the economy to grow the economy. So, for instance, if our first time of going to the Eurobond market, we turn out we borrowed around 700 million. The subsequent year, we went there to borrow 900 million. Then it tells you that, okay, fine, we use the 700 to defray already existing debt. And then, the 200 comes into the economy to grow the economy. But then you ask yourself, why did we find ourselves in that situation? As of the time we're going to the Eurobond market, you realize that, we're fresh on the market. So borrowing very long term was difficult. And I remember very well, I think the first time we went there to borrow, it was about 7 years or so. Then you ask yourself, where are you coming to put the money to? I mean, where the investment you are coming to do with that money? Would they be able to generate, cash within that 7 years that you are borrowing for? That's the question we failed to answer at the time. You realize that we borrowed, but then the money went into projects which couldn't pay itself within the 7 years. So we had to go and borrow to come and what? To defray, already existing debt. Now, coming back to the ratings, you realize that the ratings are mostly outlook, and all the indicators that goes in there, if you sum it up, is our macroeconomic indicators, our debt levels, and then also your ability to raise, revenue in the future. Now, if you take, last budget that we read, I mean, clearly, it looks like all the policies, revenue-enhanced policies that the government tends to roll out seem to be falling on rocks. Because if you take the levy, the plan was that it has to kick on within in January. But look at where we are now. And then if you take the benchmark value reduction, also is having problems. And clearly, it tells you that government is struggling when it comes to the ability to implement some of its revenue enhanced policies. And so, if you are to create an economy of this nature, obviously you're going to downgrade it, because if you will be able to pay your debt, it has to do with your ability to raise money. And so I always say that we shouldn't relate even our debt to GDP. We should relate it to our revenue generation. And so the ability to raise money keeps on reducing every now and then. And that is why we find ourselves in this downgrade. And for me, I'm not surprised in that regard at all.
When it comes to the e-levy, which is a question that I just ran by Professor Ebuturkson, as an alternative means of raising or raking in money to cushion the economy, he says, well, he is for it, taxation, because other countries pay taxes. I averted to his mind to the fact that I think neighboring Cameroon even tried 0.2%. It was poo-pooed. What do you think of that, especially standing at 1.75%? Is it feasible ahead of Parliament reconvening on the 25th? Very quickly on that one, Professor Mensah.
Very good. It's unfortunate, a country like Ghana will be relying on taxes and levies to build its economy. I mean, we were here when we had promises like from taxation to production. And if we are to move from taxation to production, then we should expect that the drivers of revenue generation for this economy should be production. But we didn't see that. But then let's look at the e-levy per se. Clearly, the e-levy, I'm not against e-levy. I mean, every economy, when you exhaust all your resources, I mean, we had diamond, we had gold, we had, recently petrol and all those. You realize that relying on it for some time, it's going to dwindle. You cannot continue to rely on revenue from these, natural resources forever. And so once you lose your natural resources, the replacement is human resource. And taxes evolves around human activities. So as a result of that, if you are going to, raise revenue through levies and taxes, I'm not against it. But sometimes the margins that the government wants to rake in, and then sometimes the hardships that the economic agents are facing may not necessarily help in introducing things like that. So for instance, if you want to introduce taxes or levies, you should expect that every now and then, economic agent, I mean, if I say economic agent, I'm talking about, government is of the economic agent, also part economic agent, and then individuals are also part of the economic agent. If you want to introduce taxes, then you have to make sure that the economic agent and you introduce taxes, they will not feel it as expected. What do we see? I mean, for the past 5 years, we see only government in business. The reason why I'm saying this is that even though we can see monetary policy rate coming down and all those, at the banking hall, interest rate is not down. For individuals to confidently walk to the bank and say, I'm coming to borrow, for businesses to walk to the bank to say that I'm coming